Hampton Court Palace, 1527. The second course has just arrived, and it is not food. It is 100 sculptures carved entirely from sugar, castles with working drawbridges, knights on horseback with lances raised, a complete-scale model of St. Paul's Cathedral, precise enough that the French ambassador spent 20 minutes examining it before anyone touched it. A working chess set so detailed that the French had it boxed, wrapped, and shipped back to Paris as a gift for their king. That was dessert. The actual meal, the meat, the game, the pies, the sauces, had already been going for 2 hours before the sugar arrived. Now it is 1530, 3 years later. Same palace, different feasts, and somehow you have landed an invitation. You walk into Hampton Court thinking you understand what you are about to face. Strange food, heavy wine, difficult conversation. You are wrong about all three, because a Tudor royal banquet in 1530 was not a meal. It was a performance, a 3-hour exercise in politics, ceremony, and slow-acting poison, served on plates that were quietly leaching a toxic metal into your wine, while the man 2 seats away recorded every word you said for dispatch to the Holy Roman Emperor. You were being fed, entertained, surveilled, and killed, all at the same time, and you had to smile through every single minute of it because the king was watching. Before we go ahead, where are you watching from? Comment your name and your city below. I'd love to know. Before the first dish arrives, you need to understand where you are sitting. 3 things are happening in this room simultaneously that have nothing to do with food. First, the man at the center of the high table. Henry VIII in 1530 was 39 years old, 6'2", 32-inch waist. The bloated figure you are imagining belongs to a different decade. The jousting accident that changes everything has not happened yet. The Venetian ambassador called him the handsomest potentate he had ever set eyes on. In 1530, that description still holds. He is also, at this exact moment, systematically dismantling the Church of England because the Pope refused to annul his marriage. Cardinal Wolsey, the man who built this palace, who organized these feasts, who was once the second most powerful figure in England, has just been stripped of everything. He will be dead within months of dysentery in a roadside abbey, reportedly telling the abbot, "Had I served God as diligently as I have served the king, he would not have given me over in my gray hairs." That is the atmosphere at the table you just sat down at. Second, the man 3 tables away. Eustace Chapuis, the imperial ambassador, refuses to call Anne Boleyn by name. In every dispatch he sends to the Holy Roman Emperor, she appears only as the lady or the concubine. Every toast raised tonight, every glance exchanged, every casual opinion about the king's marriage expressed between courses, it will all be in his report by morning. Third, the seating chart in front of you. It is not a seating arrangement. It is a political document. The great salt cellar, a jeweled silver ship, sometimes a foot tall, sits at the center of the table. Above the salt, honored guests, senior courtiers, men whose opinions matter. Below the salt, everyone else. The wrong seat tonight is not an insult. It is a warning. A wrong opinion about what the court calls the king's great matter, expressed casually between the venison and the marchpane, can end a career. Or something worse. You're still holding your nap. The food has not arrived yet. And already, 3 separate things are quietly working against you. Now, forget everything you think you know about Tudor dining. The 14-course number gets repeated constantly. It is wrong. A Tudor royal banquet ran to 2 courses, sometimes 3 on the grandest occasions. When I say 2 courses, I do not mean a starter and a main. I mean 2 successive waves of culinary violence, each one large enough to feed a small city, paraded into the hall by a procession of 15 or more dish-bearers in strict ceremonial sequence. The Eltham Ordinances of 1526 recorded the king's own menu. First course, bread, beer, acai, venison, roasted swan. Swan arrived in a sauce made from its own blood. Second course, pheasant, heron, and the cockatrice, the front half of a suckling pig, sewn to the back half of a capon, roasted, presented as a single fantastical animal. The humor of the era ran to taxidermy. Henry's kitchen accounts list roughly 30 species of wild fowl: swan, peacock, crane, bustard, lapwing, 3 species of gull. Each peacock was skinned whole, roasted, and then redressed in its own iridescent plumage, beak and claws gilded for display. If it had feathers and the poor judgment to fly over England, it ended up on this table. And on fish days, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, plus Lent and Advent, roughly half the calendar year, the menu shifted. A single fast day meal for Henry in 1526 included herring, cod, pike, salmon, lobster, crab, and also porpoise and seal. The medieval church classified aquatic mammals as fish, a ruling that tells you everything about the flexibility of theological reasoning when a king wants to eat a marine mammal on a Friday. But none of this. Not the swan, not the peacock, not the cockatrice. is the thing that should concern you most about what is on this table. That concern is in your cup. We will get there. First, you need to understand who made all of this. Behind the Great Hall, invisible to every guest, sits a kitchen complex the size of a small factory. 200 men, 6 open fires roasting simultaneously, a great boiling cauldron holding 80 gallons. The largest pastry oven stretches 12 feet across. The annual wood bill alone, approximately 1.3 million logs. 16 separate departments kept this operation running, every one of them staffed, ranked, and supervised. And at the bottom of every single one, boys, not men, boys. The youngest were 12. They were called spit boys. Their job was to stand at the roasting fires, continuously by hand, turning the spit so the meat cooked evenly. The heat from 6 simultaneous fires in an enclosed stone room in July was not a manageable discomfort. It was a physical assault. They received extra ale rations specifically to prevent them from fainting. Henry VIII personally issued a written order requiring them to stop working naked. That order exists in the palace records, which tells you precisely what the conditions were like before it was issued. These are the people who produce the food you are about to eat, 12 years old, standing at industrial fires in brutal heat. And somewhere above them, at the high table under a canopy of state, the king whose dinner they are turning. He will never once acknowledge they exist. Quick question before we continue. Where in the world are you watching from tonight? Drop it in the comments. We read every single one. The food did not kill you at dinner. The drink started earlier. 600,000 gallons of ale per year. 75,000 gallons of wine. Those are the annual consumption figures for Henry's court. 600,000 gallons of ale fills an Olympic swimming pool. The standard daily ration for a courtier ran to 6 to 10 pints of beer per person per day. Not small beer. Not the weak, watered-down brew people assume. The Food Culture Research Project at Trinity College Dublin recreated Tudor beer from period recipes and measured the alcohol content at 4.4 to 5%, comparable to a modern premium lager, 6 to 10 pints daily, of something as strong as a Heineken, every day, as a baseline ration. Wine arrived from Gascony, delivered by barge up the Thames. Henry favored claret, Rhenish, Burgundy, and Malmsey from Madeira. The cellar at Whitehall measured 70 by 30 feet and received approximately 300 barrels per year. The annual cost, £3,000, roughly £1 million in modern money. And at the close of every banquet, Hippocras, red wine warmed and sweetened with sugar, spiced with cinnamon, ginger, cloves, served alongside pressed wafers stamped with the royal arms. At Wolsey's great banquet for the French in 1527, the cardinal arrived straight from hunting, still in boots and spurs, grabbed a golden bowl of Hippocras worth 500 marks, and called out across the hall, "I drink to the king, my sovereign lord and master." 6 months later, Wolsey was stripped of the chancellorship. 2 years after that, he was dead. The man who threw the feast that became legendary, who served the sugar sculptures, who paid for the golden bowl, died of dysentery in a roadside abbey, stripped of everything, wishing he had served God half as faithfully as he had served the king. Paradise, served on pewter. And it is that pewter that brings us to the concern we planted earlier. Your cup, the one in your hand right now, filled with Gascon claret. Middle and lower tables at Hampton Court ate and drank from pewter. Antique pewter could contain up to 40% lead alloy. Acidic wine leaches led readily from those surfaces. Not as speculation, but as confirmed archaeology. Excavated pewter from the Mary Rose, Henry's warship that sank in 1545, bears the marks of working London pewterers. The chemistry was real. The exposure was constant. And nobody in 1530 had any idea. A German physician named Eberhard Gockel would not formally identify lead as a toxin until 1696. In 1530, it was called dinner. You are drinking approximately 8 pints of 5% alcohol daily from a vessel that is quietly dissolving trace amounts of lead into every sip. You will do this every day for the rest of your career at court. You will not feel it as it accumulates. You will feel it eventually as joint pain, cognitive decline, organ failure. Diagnosed, if you live long enough to be diagnosed, as the natural deterioration of age. It is not age, it is the cup. And then, even if you survive the food, the drink, the lead, and the politics, the table itself had one more way to finish you. Not poison, not the king's anger, the wrong piece of bread. This is the brutal reality nobody talks about when they picture Tudor England. The danger was not just what was on the table, it was how you were required to behave around it. And the rules, there were hundreds of them, had no mercy for the uninformed. The image of Henry VIII gnawing a turkey leg and hurling bones at dogs has no basis in historical record. Tudor table manners were a separate survival system. The manual Winkin de Ward, published in 1508, codified hundreds of rules. Never put meat into the salt cellar. Take salt only on a clean knife tip. Never return chewed bones to the shared dish. Drop them in the voiding bowl. Keep the tablecloth clean. Wipe your mouth before drinking. Do not pick your teeth with your knife. Place your napkin over the left shoulder, which was said to ward off the devil who sat there. Service followed a script precise enough to be choreography. The carver stood with a towel around his neck and a napkin on his left shoulder. The sewer, the chief server, waited with 6 gentlemen until the usher bellowed the command. A procession of 15 or more dish bearers moved from kitchen to great chamber, met at the door by another usher, dishes presented in strict sequence. 3 officers served the king on bended knee: the carver, the sewer, the cupbearer. A taster performed the assay before anything reached Henry's mouth, sometimes touching food with what the court called a unicorn's horn. It was a narwhal tusk. It was believed to detect poison. It detected nothing, but it was touched on every dish before the king ate, because in 1530, even the protection against assassination was built on a misunderstanding. Step back now. Look at the full picture. To survive a Tudor royal banquet in 1530, you needed to eat 5,000 calories of meat, game, fat, and sugar without visible discomfort. Because a poor appetite suggested weakness. Drink 6 to 10 pints of ale as strong as modern lager, plus several cups of spiced wine, without falling from your bench. Navigate a seating chart functioning as a live political minefield during the most volatile constitutional crisis in English history. Follow several hundred rules of table etiquette flawlessly, using only your fingers, a spoon, and a knife you brought from home. Say nothing about the king's marriage that chapwies would find interesting. And smile, always smile, because the king was watching. If you managed all of that, if you ate correctly and drank correctly and sat correctly and bowed at exactly the right angle to exactly the right people, you went home that evening having absorbed more lead, more purines, more sugar, and more alcohol than your body was designed to process. And you would do it again the next day, and the day after, and every day for the rest of a career at court that, statistically, would not stretch as long as you hoped. The food did not kill you at dinner. It killed you over decades. Sugar rotted your teeth black. Purines gave you gout. Lead accumulated in your bones. Alcohol worked on your liver every single morning before the city woke up. The politicians could kill you at any speed they liked. George Cavendish, Wolsey's own gentleman usher, the man who left us the most detailed surviving description of a Hampton Court banquet, wrote that the guests at the great French feast seemed wrapped into paradise. Paradise served on pewter, sweetened with sugar that was rotting their teeth in real time, watched by a king who would, within 5 years, behead the woman currently sitting in the queen's chair. You could attend a Tudor royal banquet. Surviving one was never really the point. Hit that subscribe button, because next we are stepping into the most private and most powerful room in the Tudor palace. We're heading to 1530, the king's toilet. You might think it was the most repulsive job in history, but in reality, it was the most coveted position in England. Why would a nobleman pray for the chance to clean the king's toilet? That video is already waiting for you on the screen. But before you head there, I want to get to know the community we're building here. Drop a comment below with your name and tell me which part of the world you are watching from.